This week wrapped up Hallmark's Passport to Love series with 2 scoops of Italy. They've had a good run these past couple of weeks. Did they finish it off strong? Well, I've got a lot of things to talk about, so let's dive right in and get to it. Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is the Magical Movie Club, a place to come and chat about Hallmark movies. On June 21st, we watched 2 scoops of Italy starring Hunter King and Michelle Rosiello. Hunter King should be a familiar face with Hallmark movie fans. She was in last year's The Santa Summit, also The Professional Bridesmaid, and A Royal Corgi Christmas. And like the others this month, Hallmark found some local talent from Italy to take the male lead. Michelle Rosiello may be new to Hallmark, but his bio shows he's done a lot over in Europe. The movie opens with Danielle, a professional chef, plating some different foods in her restaurant kitchen. They look amazing, but she needs to impress Owen, an investor in her restaurant. Apparently, her restaurant only lasted about a year before she had to shut it down. It's been closed for a month now, and she's taking this time to revamp her menu in the hopes of reopening soon. She's been stuck in a rut trying to find inspiration from anywhere she can find, including these magazine pictures she's cut out and pinned up all over this bulletin board. Unfortunately, Owen is still just not impressed.
So are we chasing trends or setting them?
And he tells her that if she doesn't have a suitable menu to reopen by the end of the month, he'll have to pull out. Next, we see her having some pizza with her sister, who, after giving her a little bit of a pep talk,
"You just need to get out of these 4 walls and get your mojo back,"
convinces her to go to Italy to rejuvenate and maybe even find some inspiration for her new menu. So off to the Italian countryside she goes. I like the fact that she chose to stay not in a grand hotel, which is probably what I would have done, but in a quaint little cottage off the beaten path in a small town called Ostia Antica. It was such a small town that Bruno, her shuttle driver, had to drop her off about a half a kilometer away because the streets were too narrow for vehicles. Besides, this gave her a chance to walk around and take in a little bit of the local culture, which I find a bit interesting because she owns an Italian restaurant, but she knows absolutely nothing about Italy, the culture, or even the language.
Slice coffee, yeah.
No, just coffee. No slice.
I wasn't sure how believable that seemed to me. But this is where we meet Giancarlo. His family owns a local cafe specializing in gelato. Giancarlo feels like they're stuck in a rut themselves because they haven't offered any new flavors of gelato in 3 years.
3 generations our family owns the cafe. But for the last 3 years, same flavors.
As his father points out, that was his mother's specialty, reinventing new flavors every summer. But he feels Giancarlo is much better with the business side of the operation, and he wishes he would appreciate what they have and leave well enough alone.
If today is the same as yesterday, this is a blessing.
Well, the meet cute in this movie was a scene where Giancarlo offered Danielle a taste of a new flavor of gelato he was trying out.
Ooh,
Grapefruit and rosemary.
okay.
To me, that just sounds awful, but I've never tried it, so I would keep an open mind if I ever found any. As it turns out, Danielle sort of liked it, and she offered her honest opinion to Giancarlo, along with a suggestion on how she thought it could be better.
In this one, the rosemary is just so forward.
But Giancarlo was not particularly receptive to her advice, and she left on that awkward note.
I appreciate your feedback.
I will say, though, that I appreciated the fact that this was a much more original meet cute than the usual bumping into each other or childish bickering that we've seen lately. So after Danielle left and she'd gotten all settled into the cottage where she was staying, she decided to try to get some sleep. Now, like last week's movie in Greece, this one also has church bells ringing.
Church bells now?
They were ringing right after dark, and they interrupted Danielle's chance to get some rest. We do learn that the reason they were going off is that meant there was a wedding that day. But I never figured out the point of that other than it gave Danielle an excuse to get up and read a local book that the owner of the cottage had recommended to her. This was a bit of an interesting side story. Every night when Danielle read a chapter, it appeared that whatever happened in the book predicted how her day would go.
To think it all began with tombola.
And sure enough, that evening she went out to play tombola, where she was seated at a table next to Giancarlo.
Oh, it's you.
Well, it turns out she won that night. And after an awkward moment when she first yelled bingo before remembering to yell tombola instead, the crowd seemed annoyed, or maybe just confused. I don't know if they were irritated that this new American tourist had won. I'm not sure, but the prize was what looked like a nice cake.
Entire cake? Well, thank you. You're welcome.
You know, I thought they could have expounded on that just a little bit. Like maybe show us the bakery, or maybe even the owner who made the cake could have been a fun supporting character. I don't know. I would have just liked to have seen more here than just, it's a cake. I mean, we didn't even get to see them enjoying the cake. Now, we haven't quite gotten to the main theme of the movie yet, but we're close. The next morning, Danielle was standing outside waiting at a bus stop so that she could start checking out some local restaurants. But she was waiting there for quite a long time. It was so long that she gave up and went inside to ask Giancarlo about the bus schedule.
What bus? The bus stopped running a year ago.
After chatting a little over breakfast, which he made just for her, Giancarlo makes her a deal. He proposes that he will help her find her way around if she, in turn, helps him come up with a new summer flavor of gelato.
So, we have a deal?
See.
And that's what this movie's all about. On a side note, if you're looking for an inexpensive way to watch Hallmark Channel movies, I'd like to take just a moment to let you know about Friendly TV. I've been a subscriber for years, and I feel very fortunate now to have an affiliate relationship with them. What I like about Friendly TV is, first of all, they're the most affordable live TV streaming service I know, and that includes unlimited DVR and a 72-hour look back with the classic plan. That means that if I accidentally forget to record a movie, and that does happen from time to time, I still have 72 hours to go back and watch it and still save it as a recording. Both of those features are awesome, and this is how I watch Hallmark movie premieres every week on Saturday nights. So if you're in the US or Canada, use the link in the description below to check out Friendly TV and all they have to offer. There's no additional cost to you for clicking this link, but this is how they know that I sent you there, and it's how I know that you were sent to them through one of my YouTube videos. So thank you for checking them out. And now, let's get back to the movie review. He starts by showing her how to make gelato, or as he says,
We do not make gelato, we sculpt it.
I noticed the dialogue was pretty intense. It felt like practically every sentence in the whole movie was deep and profound like this. It got to be too much even for me. But even through all the intensity, I did enjoy the tours he took her on, like walking through the old castle,
Il Castello di Giulio II.
the name of which I still can't pronounce,
Lead the way, Chef Daniel.
and even the rolling hills where she had to guess the herbs growing around them with her eyes closed just by their fragrance.
Good old country stroll, but I can't open my eyes.
After they picked some herbs and went to a farmer's market,
A hint of the world over the horizon.
they gave it a go and tried making a new flavor of gelato. But sadly, their harshest critic, a 9-year-old boy named Nico, didn't care for it.
I prefer strawberry.
Fortunately, things turned around for them after they went olive oil tasting. Olive oil tasting? That was new to me.
Okay, so a harmonious balance between fruitiness, bitterness, and pungency is what Mario said we're looking for.
Well, there was a flavor there that finally inspired their new gelato flavor, and even Nico approved.
It's delicious.
But what's up with all the mint?
To our new flavor, honey cannoli with hazelnuts and mint.
Of course, by the end, they found a way to revamp her restaurant together, and they lived happily ever after.
Come back to America with me.
But did it seem odd that Giancarlo happened to already have a passport?
Good thing you got that passport.
When for this entire movie he talked about how he had never been further than Rome. I know, I'm being picky. I just wish we had actually seen how the newly revamped restaurant turned out.
To Daniel's.
To Danielle.
So let's talk about what I liked about this movie. Aldo's Cafe. I would love to visit a little place just like this someday. Actually, you know, this looks like a work of art that I would absolutely hang in this room. And I like Giancarlo. He was authentic when he wasn't being overdramatic, charming and delightful to watch.
This is not a place to be seen as much as experienced.
And I was so glad he found his happy ending and the support of his father to go do what he really wanted to do.
But your heart will be on a plane tomorrow.
But how about Danielle? My feelings about this character are more complicated. It's not that I disliked anything about her. She didn't do or say anything that rubbed me the wrong way. She wasn't foolish or immature. I think she was just bland. And I have a hard time believing that she was a great chef or that she ever owned an authentic Italian restaurant. That's probably because I have my own preconceived idea of what a great Italian restaurant should be. I used to know this one in San Diego where the owner's dad came here from Italy and opened the restaurant many, many years ago. And wow, it was far and away the best Italian food I know. So when I look at this young woman who has an Italian restaurant, but doesn't have any recipes that draw people in, nor does the restaurant look right for the part to me, I can't help but wonder, why Italian? If she's this great young chef, what is she great at? We never actually saw her create anything. You would think she would have served more than just one pan of lasagna, which, by the way, we never saw her make. I mean, why didn't she cook anything for Giancarlo just once while she was there? Anyway, I also love to see great supporting characters. And while I like Giancarlo's dad just fine, he was also just too intense. For example, he was dead set against Giancarlo experimenting with new gelato flavors.
New flavors, that was your mom's specialty. Bookkeeping is your son.
I mean, he was really adamant about it.
But what we have here is good enough. Capisci?
And even when he finally consented to letting Giancarlo at least try some new flavors, it was like he was going up for a Nobel Prize.
Choose wisely.
I wanted to say, lighten up a little, it's gelato. As for the other characters, there really weren't many that stood out as being spectacular. Bruno and Alida were sweet.
I'm happy to come anytime you need.
That's very sweet, Bruno.
But I've seen others recently that were so much better. Like the main character, Danielle, I found them to just be bland. So this one is tough for me to come up with a rating because I don't want anyone to think that it was a bad movie per se. There was just nothing great about it either. For me, it was forgettable. In another year or two, if anyone asks me, I'll probably say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I can't remember anything about it other than that there was gelato in it. With that in mind, I think I'll give it a 3 out of 5. So how about you? What did you think? Maybe these characters or the overall story resonated more with you than they did with me this time. Perhaps I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it hadn't followed 2 other similar movies that in my opinion were just so much better overall. Well, I think that wraps up my review of 2 Scoops of Italy. And guess what that means? Next week officially launches Christmas in July. And I'm about halfway through a series of videos that I'm putting together just for that occasion. But that doesn't mean I'm not watching the new ones too. As a matter of fact, next Saturday is the first brand new Hallmark Christmas movie of the year called Falling Like Snowflakes. You know I'll be watching and ready to share my thoughts about it next week. Until then, and as always, thank you so much for being a part of the Magical Movie Club. If you like this too and want to see more, please let me know by hitting the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, consider following us on Instagram at Magical Movie Club and on Twitter at Magical Movie Club with no U in club. You can find those links below in the description, as well as links to the preview and the movie page for 2 Scoops of Italy at Hallmark.com. I'll be back next week to chat more about our favorite magical movies.
Okay, it's rested long enough.
Okay.